in that concept, or rather, excuse me, in that role, right? In that conceptually, like, what are the core things that they should be focused on then? You think is it about documentation? Like, maybe I'm just a gut reaction is like everything you do, every conversation should live in a Word doc in that first year. How much of it is about documentation versus you recording a call, for example, going back and building a framework that's executable in a scalable way, after the fact?
Yeah, I think there are some things that you can put in documents, but when it comes to like, if we go on to partner education and partner enablement, like those things are super important early on, and you can send partners, 100 documents, they're never going to read them.
Yeah.
If someone sent me that many documents, I'd never be reading them. If someone sent me to just one place to look at all of my documentation, again, it has to be mixed. It has to be a combination of different things. You can't achieve all of the success that you want within that mutual action plan by doing the same thing. You can't just get there by doing lots of webinars. You can't get there by doing lots of enablement or just by going out for lots of drinks. It has to be a combination of many different activities in order to get you there.
Yeah. Those activities are interesting because I've talked to other folks about partner education and just building a path, almost an activation path. I've had other folks tell me that you can't because it's not a one size fits all. It has to be so custom and whatnot. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. Like, I'm personally of the belief that it's somewhere in between. I think you need a framework. You need like an activation and onboarding, if you will, framework that's got guardrails. I like that expression because everyone sort of pictures in their head, like I'm driving on the highway and there's guardrails, the bumpers on the side there. And those are not against the side of your car. You're free to transition between lanes and move back and forth and adjust your speed perhaps. And then you can get off at some point if you see an exit ramp, and that's okay too. But ultimately, that the guardrails, those frameworks that sit around the process for onboarding and for activation, are there to ensure that we stay on some sort of a trajectory, some sort of an outcome-based path. How much do you think in those early days it is super prescriptive? Like, do we need to go back to kind of square one and say, here's the first 5 things you must do? Or is it or are you of the mindset rather where it's here's the 5 things you can do, and if you do, you may come to this outcome more effectively?
Yeah. So I'm a very structured and process-driven person, and for me, I think it does depend in where you've put yourself in what kind of partner that you want to be. So when I've asked that question of what kind of partner do you want to be, there are very few people that put themselves in that top bucket early on. There's very few people that go like, we're gonna be speaking to you like daily. Like,
I'm gonna call you every day. Yeah, the overachievers, right? We're gonna talk 4 times a day. I can't wait. Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen, shockingly, very often. But, I've had people come before and say, we want to be in this middle bucket, and then we want to go up to the other one. I'm like, okay, great. Here's what you need to do in order to do that. I do believe in having that foundational structure. I agree with you. I think that is really important. And I love the idea of having guardrails within that. Whenever I've created partner enablement and certification programs within any company, and I think part of that is that kind of early onboarding phase as well. I've always created a foundational track. This is a must do for every single partner. And here's how many people we would love for you to go through that. Then there are other tracks that kind of upskill you even further. And then there's some optional stuff, and it can become like a catalog of enablement options. Sure. I always have that kind of, the certification paths running down the middle. And for me, that has to be delivered in a way, it doesn't matter which method it's delivered in. If it's online, if it's virtual, if it's in the classroom, like I want the same content, the same testing, like that's really important for me to make sure that every single partner has had that same level of education, that same baseline. And then beyond that, it's like, where are they interested in? Because they might not be interested in all of the same stuff as all of the other partners. Like, it wouldn't be, if we just took a specific technology part of it, if we worked in the data space and it was like, okay, this company really likes SAP use cases, for example, I can't make every single partner go and do that specific part of the course. It just wouldn't make sense. So having those options and those abilities to go and learn different things is really important and really valuable for partners. But that foundational structure is really important too.
I want to double click on that actually, because you said something interesting around the individual versus obviously the organizational level. How much of that early content then do you think is role specific versus not? That's an interesting argument because I've heard both ways. I've actually witnessed both ways work and fail, quite honestly. Like, there are parts of this that are anyone at the company can do X, and because of it, they'll have the knowledge to contribute, Y in terms of feedback, versus this person, like the CEO needs to do our foundations for partnership exercise. And then, the head of sales or salesperson or whatever needs to do our how to sell our product exercise. Like, how much do you think is then tailored to an individual? Let's call it a role, right? To a job function versus at a sort of like business level education that they can then spread, kind of peanut butter spread into their organization itself.
Yeah, it really depends on the size of the company, I think, because partner education is a huge uplift. And I think massively underestimated. Like, there is so many updates required to partner education to make sure that you've got the right messaging going to market. And if you create 20 different courses for many different people across the company, managing who's done it, how long ago they did it, have you updated it since, are there additional modules that they need to do, that can get messy really quickly. So I personally try and keep things really, really simple. When I'm developing any training and certification program, I will typically have an introduction to the offering and the company, and then I'll have a sales track and a technical track. You can go beyond that a little bit and have maybe pre-sales and implementation.
Sure.
But for me, it's about keeping it as generic as possible while still being very educational and getting to the result you want. And that's where things like training needs analysis, training design, and all of that comes in to make sure that the education is actually effective.
Yeah, it sounds like focus. I'm hearing you talk about specifically the idea of listening to the market, listening to the partnerships themselves, those partners, as individuals, and hearing the feedback they give. I'm already thinking about like be a student of it, be a student of the data. Are people using it? Are they engaging with it? To your point, when was the last time they engaged with it? And has it, turned stale already 6 months or a year or whatever later? If you were starting out, it's probably one of our last questions for time's sake, but if you were starting out tomorrow and someone said to you, like, how do I build an activation framework? What are the maybe 3 steps or 5 steps to go from nothing? I just started my program to I can consistently find a partner, maybe skip that step, but like when I consistently find a partner and they come to my doorstep and they say, yes, if I follow, your framework of here's the first 3 things I should have or 5 things I should have, I'll get myself to a pretty good place. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, I wonder if there's something top of mind for you in terms of 3 to 5 steps to go from 0 to a rough framework of activation.
I think the ability to have difficult conversations where you need to, and to, really set expectations, and revisit those really frequently, because it's all well and good going into a partnership with these expectations and then never revisiting those, because it can be uncomfortable, right? If you've set expectations initially and then either party is not meeting those, it's a challenging conversation to have, but you have to be able to do that in order for your partnership to be successful. So that kind of initial piece around setting expectations and being able to have that conversation, super important. Good partner education, partner enablement. It doesn't matter what it looks like for you, whether you do many different courses, whether you break it down and you have really simple courses, but making it effective is the most important thing. And then being really consistent with the things that you are doing and making sure that you have the resources to deliver on the things that you have promised in the first place. Like, if you have designed a partner program that you can't deliver on and set expectations with your partner that you can't then deliver on, it's not going to work.
It breaks real quick. Yeah, I can imagine that being like a sunlight moment and immediately everything is just gone. Yeah,
absolutely. It really does. So yeah, super, super important.
Brilliant. Well, this has been fantastic. I think the insights are invaluable. If folks want to reach out, if they want to get in touch, how do they do so? Find you on the internet, et cetera?
Yes, so there's a website, branchworks.io. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I have a personal LinkedIn, Eleanor Thompson, or you can reach out on the company LinkedIn at Branchworks.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Eleanor, this has been fun, interesting as always. Thanks for the conversation. And folks, thanks for checking out another episode of Outcomes. As always, I'm your host, Barrett King. Please like, subscribe, comment, and follow. We appreciate all your support. And Eleanor, again, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.